Hey, internet. Okay, let's do this. I have had the pleasure of having a lot of conversations over the past week with a number of lovely gentlemen. Um, One of them I just met yesterday. I believe his name is Lee. I think I have that right. Dude from Oregon, with a lovely command of biomechanics. He taught me how to throw a forehand way better than I ever thought I would in 20 minutes. Amazing coach. Also, a young man named Sebastian, also an amazing coach, excellent eye. He helped me clean up a couple things in my form with very simple cues. Also, an amazing athlete guy. Guy throws a disc faster than I have ever seen a disc go. Um, those two, and of course, Brian Weissman, who I had the pleasure of meeting not even 2 weeks ago. And we've already bounced so many ideas off of each other, and he's leveled up my understanding of what's happening in the backhand so much. So thank you so much to all three of you. Here's to more of that. So a lot of the credit for all of this goes to all three of those guys, and we've just been spitballing and talking about form and bouncing ideas off each other and leveling stuff up. So some people have a Mikey, bless his soul. He is excellent at what he does, and some people have two sticks and a piece of rope and some electrical tape. So this is the trebuchet model, right? We're going to try to do more with less, or a lot less, as the case may be. So this is a model of essentially your hips and your femurs. It kind of gets a little clunky because it doesn't model your knees, which like I'm not that good of a puppet operator, but we can try to make this work. So, what the heck do your hips actually do? How do you activate the hips? Do you activate the hips? Back leg, front leg, all this nonsense. What are we talking about? First of all, a little bit about back leg stuff. Trent is a wonderful human. I enjoy his company very much. We've never met in person, but we've talked. His stuff works. Full stop. It works. It's very different. It's a totally different model than everything we've seen online, but it works for him and it works for his clients. So even if, like myself, you don't agree with some of the ideas, let's make sure we're respecting the human because he's a lovely guy. So that out of the way, I don't think that model is the best or the easiest to get results from. That's all I'm going to say about it. Like, yeah, that's all we need. What I think is actually happening, or what I think is easier to reproduce in most people, is this. So I'll demo it first with my body so you have half a clue what this is doing, but I think it'll be clearer with the sticks eventually. So my hips are neutral, right? I'm throwing towards the camera. I want my hips to stay neutral as I go through my X step, but then as I come into my plant, I actually want my rear hip to go backwards. This is Mike Malaska's ball golf stuff. So to make a ball golf swing, you don't spin your hips, you don't rotate your hips, right? There's no firing of the hips that way. What you do is you take your back hip, move your back hip to the rear, and then you ignore your back hip and you take your front hip and you move your front hip to the rear and you get something like a golf swing and you get this position that we see baseball hitters in all the time. When you do this statically, you end up with a squish the bug type motion, which we now know is not productive. There's some confusion in back leg coaching of if that's happening or not. Trent doesn't do it when he throws. So there's your answer, right? But the demos are hard because there's a difference between demoing something statically and demoing something dynamically where you can actually de-weight the rear foot. So that's a lot of that confusion comes from a demo error in a lot of that stuff. And lots of people are guilty of that, including myself. So back to the disc golf throw with a walk up. Right, so I'm doing an X step. Once my weight never really settles on my X step to start. I want to float over that. You can settle onto it, but I think it's better not to at a beginner level. As this leg loads, I'm going to let that hip go backwards so that it has somewhere to go as I come forward. I don't want that to be rotational. I don't want to spin this hip or this foot out. It is going to move a little bit. Yerky corrected me on that a little bit. I got too strict on saying don't let this hip rotate at all, which isn't necessarily true. It's going to rotate a little bit, but it's not more than 45 degrees, right? You're trying to keep some containment on the backside. So once you get there, then you're going to step towards your plant, which is going to have some degree of offset. You're not going to plant here, you're going to plant here. So now your hips are on a 45. Your weight is at some point going to shift, and you're going to load your knee and your quad. Then you're going to unload your knee and your quad. So within a couple frames, you're going to go from looking at my back pockets on a 45-degree angle, right? Here, 45-degree angle. I'm going to load the front. I'm going to unload the front. And then you're going to be looking at the front of my hips on a 45-degree angle. And here I have demoed this wrong because my knee has dropped. Some people cue a drop knee. I don't like that anymore. This is what Brian cleared up for me. I actually want that rear leg to stay straight and very long and poke out this way. And there is some hamstring activity and some glute activity to make that leg stay up in this position. I have to use my hamstring and my glute to keep it here. It's not a scoop, right? That doesn't have as much counterweight. But when I stick my leg out, notice how my head goes forward more. Leg in, I'm more upright. Leg out, I have more counterweight. I want more counterweight. So, the magic position, sorry, Trent, stole your phrase. Trent's magic position is here. That's totally money. My magic position is after that. So, moving to the hip model. So, I'm coming down the T-pad this way. I've got my right hip is red. My blue hip is back, in the back. Screwed that up. Right hip in front, blue hip in back. Yes. So as I X-step, I'm going to send my back hip back. So my femurs are actually going to be kind of like here. And then I'm going to stretch this leg out to my plant. I'm going to plant. I'm going to load my knee, which is down here, right? Load into that knee. And then I'm going to fire the front leg and watch what happens to the femurs. Boom. They're going to cross like this, and my legs are actually going to like knock into each other. So my inner thighs are going to squeeze together. But what happened, right? I went from, so side view, I went from this shape. Again, these are the femurs, the knees are at the bottom of the sticks. I go from this shape to my blue hip, my rear hip moving to the rear. And then when I plant and fire the front leg, they switch. So again, throwing towards the camera, I'm going from here to there. So top view, I'm running this way, throwing into the ground. Mikey, if you want to make a visual for this, it's all yours, dude. So I'm here. Let's go onto the black. My bag out of the way. Production value off the charts, internet. Off the charts. Is that better? That's better. Okay. Get out of here, stick of learning. We don't need you. We got new sticks of learning. Okay. Puppetry complete. So my hips are, do it that way. My hips are here, right? It's the top view. So I'm throwing into the ground, throwing that way. My rear hip is going to load, clear to the back. And then when I plant, this front leg is going to fire and clear the right hip, the front hip, to the rear. And the rear hip is going to swing to the front, right? So, yeah, that's it. So they're coming down the T-pad together. They're coming down the T-pad. The rear loads, front clears, and they switch. So what does this look like, right? They go from here to there. It's a crumple zone, right? So I feel like this is the part that everyone's missing, and the phrase that everyone's missing, because everyone says fire the hips, right? You're gonna do something with your hips. It doesn't really work. We don't have muscles for that. I was just arguing with one of my friends about this on Discord. So here, my hips and my femurs are kind of in line. They're kind of on this flat plane here. And then as I drive off of the rear leg, as much as I'm going to drive off of the rear leg, load the front leg and then fire the front quad, my flat plane turns into a zigzag. And it's that. So when I'm here, I have my rear leg in a counterweight roll out behind me, right? So if I balance on my front, I get this, right? And this is the position that Brian Weissman has everyone spend a lot of time in his coaching method, right? So he has you get here and get used to that. This is the crumple zone. So my pelvis, the rope, is here on this angle. My front femur is here on this angle, and my rear femur is here on this angle, and there's no space between my femurs. They're together. So I went from open to closed, right? So I go from open here to this drifts behind, and everything's closed. That is your power position, where you actually anchor the front leg into the ground in a brace-centric model. And that's where the hips go to. And then the arm slings out on top of that, which is a whole separate discussion. But the power generation is here, and it comes from the brace. The problem with brace-centric coaching is that it's all on the front side. In my opinion, what Trent misses is the value of the brace. He has the backside stuff down, like, to a point. He's way better at that than everyone else, and his distance results show that, you know. But I feel like that's the hard way to do it. I really feel, really personally, I feel that we need to move back to a holistic model of the throw. And people have been starting to have conversations about this. There's one new guy on our Discord, on Jamie's Discord, Disc Golf Nation. Hope that doesn't blow up now that I've said the name. No, maybe that's okay. There's one dude on there who's new, who I don't even know what his background is, but he said exactly the same thing today. He said, like, we need to move back to a model that includes both legs, right? Because the coaching community online has gotten, like, so hush-hush about, no, we don't talk about the back leg. And that's what Brian Weissman kicked out of me in a second, because he starts his methodology with this loop ghost position, but he's talking specifically about how you start the motion from the back leg. And it's not even that you start it, he's just starting his progression there, right? In a way that I feel is really productive, because it's exactly like Dr. Kwan's idea, right? Of getting here. I changed the hand position. He does it like this. I think this locks your shoulders out better. But he has people swing a kettlebell, right? So if you're swinging a kettlebell, you want it to look like this. What people inevitably do at first is do this, which, like, this is a cool swing plane, right? No, it's not going to work because it's not centered. It's lopsided, right? When you get the thing moving in a straight line, watch what happens to my head, right? If I'm doing a figure eight, my head goes all over the place. My spine goes all over the place. I don't have a central axis. When I get the thing moving in a straight line, in a straight plane, my head and my spine are not moving. My hips are rotating, my hips are clearing to the rear, but everything has a central axis. That is what you want in a throw, right? So it's not all about the brace. It's not all about the back leg. In Trent's model, it is all about the back leg because he's generating all of his power here, and the brace is an afterthought, right? He does coach on the brace, but that's not the center of his model in what I have seen of it. It could be totally different at a high level. So that's what I feel is missing, right? There's more that's missing, but it's higher up and more elusive. But it's all just getting here and getting into the ground and stopping that front hip. So the goal of the brace is to stop the forward momentum. And in order for that to happen, the energy on either side of the brace has to be balanced. So if this is the center line of my brace, right, which is where my hip goes, I cannot have everything go to this side because then it's not going to be balanced right to left, right? I need to have something go behind here because I have something, I'm sending a lot of energy here, so I need something to go there to balance it. This is not keeping my shoulders closed longer. My shoulders are going to open when they need to open. the rear leg is keeping me balanced right to left, which allows me to actually stop my momentum with the brace, which allows me to sequence correctly from hips to shoulders to elbow to release, right? And going through the release instead of pulling to the release. That's a different video. That's going to take too long. What are we at? We're already at 15 minutes. Stop. Too long. Abort. Mission is foobar. Okay, so key takeaways. Crumple zone. You need a crumple zone. You need a puppet for your hips. That's not true at all. Offset, crumple zone, legs getting together, rear leg extension on a counterbalanced hyzer. What else? There's more. Maybe that's it. Actually getting containment behind the brace is what we need. For that to happen, your foot has to be in front of your hips and your leg has to go to one side of your brace. Throwing arm has to go to the other side of the brace. I feel like there's one thing I'm forgetting. I'll remember it like the second I stop recording. I know I will. What is it? What is it? This is why you take notes, internet. Do not take notes. I'm in a hurry to get this up. What is it? Guess. If I were forgetting something, what would it be? Okay, well let's pause and come back to it. Told you I'd remember the second I stopped recording. So the antithesis of a balanced brace left to right is spinning open, right? So spinning open looks like, doesn't matter, you can have 1,000,000 miles of offset, but if you don't have anything counterweighting the other side of your brace, I can run up here, plant full Oakley, and still spin out, right? If you don't get this crumple zone thing set up, you're not going to be balanced in your brace. So the way you get your crumple zone set up is you commit to the idea of, and this is a phrase that Lee shared with me, your hip shift is linear, not rotational. If you start your motion by rotating your front hip forward or allowing your front hip to rotate forward, you're never going to get a brace right? Look at literally 75 to 90% of beginners. This is what they do. They rotate forward off of the back leg. Or even if they are bracing, the back leg just rotates forward, right? So this is not what we want. We do not want the knees coming together. We want the knees to stay separate because you're activating the glute intentionally and activating the hamstring intentionally to send the rear leg behind. This allows balance left to right, right? If my knees come together, I have no balance left to right, and I'm just gonna spin out forward, right? Everyone does that. Not everyone, but 90% of players do that. So the key is this depth here. And that's what Brian's method is so good at installing from the very beginning. And that should be where we start. Because if you start with power pocket or arm or strength, everything goes to crap and you don't have a balanced brace. A balanced brace is the most important part. So that was the missing link. All right, internet, go forth and crumple zone and throw far. Thank you and good luck.